Hello, welcome to Serving the Valley. I'm Roy Justice. Another production from Cedar Falls Television to bring you up close and personal why it is we think this is a great place to call home. And today is certainly no exception. Today we are, in fact, Cedar Valley Strong, which leads me right into our panel. And you say, thank goodness for that. This time around, we're talking United Way. And United Way is being directed in our area. The president of United Way is Sheila Baird. Sheila, welcome to our program.
Thank you for having us.
And Sheila has company, as you can see. We have two of the three co-chairs for this campaign, which is already underway, as you well know. Jeff Olson is the Cedar Falls Director of Public Safety, and next to him is Dan Trelka, who's the police chief in Waterloo. Their fellow co-chair, Tony Thompson, the sheriff of Black Hawk County, was unable to be with us for the program. He had a scheduled conflict. Chances are you will see Tony around the campaign trail in the next weeks and months ahead. Let's talk about that. But first, before we get there, Sheila, I've got to ask you, all the excitement that has taken place since the end of August when the kickoff occurred, how did you manage, with the busy lives of our two guests beside you, manage to bring them to the forefront in leadership for this campaign?
You know, I think it's multifaceted how it occurs. One, we have a committee that looks at a variety of people in the community that would be really good spokesman for United Way, and then takes it one step further and makes the ask. And we had three very willing participants, but you know, the joy is we have three of them. And we know that they're really, really busy. We know that they can speak very well on our behalf. They can speak to the heart of the community and really know the needs of the community. And thankfully they said yes.
Thankfully, they did say yes. Before I turn to both of them, I want to stay on you for just a second, because since the kickoff, the end of August, the ripples are still there. There was such excitement that happened at the kickoff, and now the campaign is into the homes, it's into the agencies, it's into the various workplaces. The general goal for the campaign this time around is how much?
Generally speaking, around $3 million. You know, we always hope to raise more. There are so many needs in this community, and as we get applications for the programs that we end up funding and the volunteers look at, you know, we could easily raise $4 million in this community and find a fabulous place for it to go, where it could grow families, grow children, just make the place that we live in even that much better.
Well, you know, the United Way Workplace Campaign does unite employees and offices and branches and companies and giving them an opportunity to make their donation. And it's more than just writing a check. It really is. It affects people's lives. So you're really talking about, well, how does it affect people's lives? I'm going to ask Jeff and Dan to contribute a little bit in that regard. In the work that you do and the officers you have under your command in the two police forces represented here, they touch people's lives, and many times it's in that positive way, and it involves one of those agencies of the United Way. Jeff, give me an example if you can.
Well, yeah, it certainly does. You know, if you think about a career in law enforcement, you typically are responding to scenes where there's a lot of different types of troubling behavior that you see. But a lot of that is, I think about mental health. You know, there's a lot of mental health related issues that you run into in law enforcement, and you really look at what are the resources available for them. And it's certainly not a jail cell. You know, that's not the correct place to put them to get help. And so you think about a lot of the mental health issues. You also see a lot of scenarios where the families have a lot of financial needs, or their children have needs. There's just so much that you see out there. And you know, you frequently think about, when you're at that scene, the resolution, the long-term resolution isn't necessarily something law enforcement can help them with. It's an agency like the United Way or other agencies that they fund in the community that can help these people.
Dan, that's part that really doesn't get a whole lot of media attention. The media seems to be more focused on the here and now, as opposed to the training that the officers have gone through to deal with something like that.
Correct. And there's so many people out there who have needs, and many times the officers are coming across people that have nowhere else to turn, so they'll contact law enforcement, sometimes out of desperation, seeking help.
Correct.
And the United Way funds so many programs and services that the officers can refer these people to. So it's such a valuable resource. And there's so many good things happening in the Cedar Valley right now. And you know, Sheila, they've been, I won't say badgering, but about a year ago they started to ask us. And we committed to it because we're on the cusp of great things happening in the Cedar Valley. And this is just one dynamic that adds to it. Believe it or not, crime is dropping in the Cedar Valley. If you look at the crime over the past 10 years, it's gone down significantly. The economy is coming together. The development in Cedar Falls, Waterloo, Evansdale, all the cities combined is just remarkable. And now's the time. You know, Sheriff Thompson put it out there yesterday. $4 million
Yeah, I
is
heard
the
his
goal.
goal.
And we can do it. We can do it. We're going to push hard to do it.
Part of the video that was being shown as we're conversing here was back at that kickoff time, back at the end of August. And as I say, the campaign is well underway. Are you gentlemen aware of the number of rallies and gets-togethers that are on your schedule? Have you looked at your schedules lately?
Well, we certainly have.
Yes.
There's a lot on there. You have John Deere, for example. There are 60, 70, 80 visits, and you know, one thing I want to throw in there is that kind of what we're doing this year is there's a law enforcement theme to some of these visits where we're having a makeshift jail, you could say, and employees are paying to put their friend or their supervisor in the jail, and then the employer, the supervisor's got to collect enough bond to get their way out. So we're trying to make this fun for a lot of the events.
How many employee gatherings are there, Sheila, over the campaign period?
I struggle saying that just because it does vary from year to year. In a good year, we strive to get in front of 12,000 people.
Wow.
So whether that's 30 at a time, 100 at a time, at our Rally for the Valley, 500 at a time, but a measure of success that we can see year after year is if we do get in front of 12,000 people, we will in fact make a measurable difference.
I looked at some of where the, I'll say, targets are for this particular campaign. I see health, I see education, and I see financial stability. Now, gentlemen, you mentioned some of those areas when I went with you the first series of questions. The number of agencies that are involved and served by this United Way, it's incredible.
It is. And a number of years ago, this United Way went down the path of really investing and strategically looking at what could be offered in those areas, and if this piece was input, what would be the result. And so we really have developed a system of what we call community impact. So we look at what goals could be. So, a goal could be how many children are proficient in reading by 3rd grade. A goal could be how many families are no longer living in poverty. How many people have graduated from high school? So we really do set those kind of benchmarks, and then we ask for applications from the organizations. And so as the applications come in, their goal is to improve one of those areas in this community. Another piece that we have added in recent years is it began as more of a resource and development. At this point, we call it a social innovation fund. And its goal is to simply be very proactive. And the more proactive that we can get in that area, the better off we are going to be with our investments. One of the areas that they're currently working on in that group and have been for the last 2 years is the mental health work group. And this group gets together on a monthly basis, and it is comprised of about 30 organizations thereabouts, includes law enforcement, includes the hospitals, includes educational areas in our community, all schools really from, pre-K to college, and just talk about gaps that are out there, how gaps can be filled, and how we can best invest. And it's wide ranging. It's not only the money that we have collected through the campaign that is invested, but what other grants or other opportunities are out there to bring money in, and potentially what legislative solutions can be accomplished as well. So once again, that huge need of mental health can just be solved.
Okay.
And so another thing that came out of that, prior to the mental health work was the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. And that has been going strong in the community again for several years. And that came out of that kind of looking at what collectively can we do, what proactive things can we do to change how we look. And the Campaign for Grade Level Reading actually came out of the need to change poverty in our community. And one of the best ways to change poverty is education. So if you work on those key things of, getting children ready for school, making sure they attend school. So we're working very hard on attendance numbers in this community, and then making sure that they don't go backwards during the summer. So summer slide is reduced or entirely alleviated. So some really innovative kind of pieces that we can do as a community, but somebody's got to be the starter point. And so that's really more that collective work that we've been doing and doing much more heavily in recent years. And the final piece, not ever to be forgotten, and especially as those natural disasters seem to continue to occur, is that very basic needs for shelter, for response to emergencies, to food, all of those kinds of things that our United Way has clearly supported for a very, very long time, and will continue to do.
And Jeff and Dan, you both touched on it with an earlier reply where you talked about some of the officers that report to the scene of something or are called to a crisis situation. If there had just been someone there with some additional help for the parent or whoever the person was responsible for whatever happened, that could possibly have been avoided. And therefore, an agency of the United Way might have been able to intervene and make things better?
Yeah, provide a service. Then the one thing that sold me, and I've been given for 35 years, as a matter of fact, I can remember the very first time I started my contribution was in the Marine Corps in boot camp. They brought the applications out and I filled it out, and that was the beginning of it. But the way it's vetted here in the Cedar Valley is so impressive because they go through this thorough process to, again, generate funds and for programs that are so instrumental for developing these children that need to read. And poverty and crime go hand in hand. You have a positive impact on poverty, you're going to have a positive impact on crime. So that's why it's so important to us. And our officers are put into so many situations where they come across individuals who are benefiting from these services. And if we could generate more funds to provide more services, more people are going to benefit.
If you can reach a lot of the younger adults or a lot of the kids early and kind of help them out and get them steered the right way, you're going to prevent a lot of problems from occurring with that individual and that individual's future family, and the community as a whole. So, you kind of look at a lot of this as a prevention type effort for a lot of future behavior.
Financial stability is still a key point in the whole campaign as well. Not only of the individuals, but the financial stability of the United Way.
Correct, but we have a very, very good board of directors. There's 29 members on our board, and they're all local people. And we have a finance committee that has been with us for over 20 years, pieces of them. We have really, really good committee structure that makes sure that we have good eyes on us, but we also have good direction that is given and input. So we try very hard to be healthy because there's no worse thing that could happen than there's a need out there, and it doesn't matter what organization. And you could go from anywhere from daycare to food to shelter to providing some kind of help for addictive services. The worst thing that could happen is that they are so underfunded that when they are needed, when that moment of crisis occurs, they're not there. And they don't have the resources they don't have the bodies to actually work with people one-on-one. And so that is hugely important that we maintain a certain level of stability so that we are ready to go.
I went down the list, and I hate making lists because you always leave somebody out, or you didn't say anything about so-and-so or whatever. But I was looking down. The United Way works with schools, government agencies, local businesses, organized labor, financial institutions, community development corporations, voluntary neighborhood associations, and the faith community, and then the catch-all, others. That's a long, long list.
Yes, intentionally. Because you have to have input from as many people and as many sectors as you possibly can to really make that good decision rather than just a hopeful decision. And it's not easy from the perspective of, you know, any of the organizations, law enforcement included. You know, you're still dealing with humans, and humans make interesting decisions at times, and sometimes they're decisions that they would never make if in fact they didn't have all the other pressures on them that are really pulling away from what could be a positive situation and quickly becomes a negative situation. People don't make choices to leave a child home alone intentionally. It's because of another crisis situation that pulls them away, and sometimes it's clearly, you know, trying to get to a financially stable situation.
Big time social media. And how does an agency like the United Way or agencies of the United Way make better use and continued use? Because you talk about reaching the youth today. Hello? If you can get eye contact with them off of their phones or whatever, United Way has a number of ways of using the social media.
We have a number of ways, but we, like every other business, every other organization, it is a constant challenge to go ahead and reach people either through you know, the Twitter feed, the Facebook feed, websites, any other kinds of things you can think of, but you know, and media like this, television. I mean, we sometimes forget that we have television and newspapers, also print media, that are an integral part of it as well. And when we look at trying to reach people from birth through, you know, their entire lifetime,
Right.
It's a large sector of people that we try and reach on a regular basis. And it is a challenge for us as it is for everyone else. But we are certainly glad that we are able to kind of stay abreast of it, but it's a daily job.
Thanks to the innovative nature of the business that we are involved in at this very moment, we were able to capture for you to see some of what those who were attending the kickoff back in the latter part of August had a chance to see, and we're going to give you a chance to see it in case you weren't there.
Great things are happening in our community.
But there is work to be done.
Improvements to be made.
People are struggling.
Fellow citizens are in need of help.
And united, we can do more.
We are Cedar Valley Strong. United, we can take on the problems that most people turn their backs on. The ones nobody wants to talk about, the ones that seem impossible to solve.
Around the Cedar Valley, people are facing poverty. There are youth with no support, elderly unsafe in their homes, people suffering from mental illness, unable to get help, and children left behind.
United Way goes looking for those problems, and we find every dollar and resource we can to address them.
From the time I was 7, I was living a stereotype. Legal issues, child protective services, parents incarcerated, bouncing from grandparents' house to grandparents' house. I had lost everything. Nothing was stable. We had everything, but we could never keep it. One minute we would have a nice home, the next there would be an eviction notice.
Before I decided to attend the club, my life at home was depressing. I struggled with making friends, I struggled with keeping friends.
I was almost out of diapers for my baby and wasn't sure how we were going to get him more.
When I moved in, I really had no idea of what I wanted to do. I was young with 3 children, and honestly, I was not prepared for life. I didn't have a driver's license or a stable job. I was living off child support and little jobs here and there.
I'm a young male in high school and started getting help for substance abuse because of prescription medication. Through it all, I've had both ups and downs with my sobriety.
I decided to get help when I learned I was about to have my first child for support and parent education. I was the victim of violence and unhealthy relationships with my children's fathers.
It really hits home when she talks about her 2 kids, because I have 2 kids, and we are in a lucky and fortunate situation that we have the support and resources we need. But to put you or your kids in a situation that would mean they didn't have everything they wanted as a mother hurts your heart.
Well, when you see people walking down the streets with their big cans of bags or raggedy clothes, and you see people out late at night that don't necessarily look like they've got a place to go, you kind of see it every day.
Just think about a young child getting ready to go to school that hasn't had the opportunity to have a meal. Think about the family that can't provide the necessary resources and shelter for themselves or their families. So it has a great impact on our local community.
It's everywhere you go, no matter what community, there's always people who need a little bit of help.
The more that's being, talked about, the more that, we're trying to make a difference to, put something together to change that social issue, the better it's going to be and the better that community is going to be.
It's heartbreaking, and we've got it good around here, but there's still some need.
At United Way, we are more than the fundraisers. We are the hand raisers, the game changers, the stop talking, start doing, and take on the impossible task masters.
United, we confront poverty, and we fight for more than just survival, but for dreams of what the future could be.
I am now about to graduate when no one thought I would or could.
The club has helped me build strong relationships and made me the best I can be. To me, this place is like a home. And because of the club, my grades, relationships, and my overall mindset has improved.
I was given diapers and other essentials for my family. I cried and hugged the staff. That feeling of relief was overwhelming.
I would like to say that I did this all by myself, but I didn't. They provided me with support and motivated me every step of the way. Honestly, if it wasn't for moving here, I don't know where I'd be or what I'd be doing. I never would have seen myself being where I am today. I've achieved goals that I didn't even have before.
I'm now 21 days sober and feeling proud of myself and want to prove to everyone that I can do it. My counselor has helped me by just talking to me like a real person. It's hard to explain. I've never had support like this.
15 years after first reaching out for help, I have continued to remain in contact with program staff, and I volunteer through community outreach and baby safety events. Parent support and community resources changed my life. I am now a successful parent.
At United Way, we fight for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in our community.
Cedar Valley is absolutely strong, and we're strongest when we can reach back and give back to those that are most in need.
I think there's always more that can be done, and just when you start to rest is when you need to pick up the pace and look and see what else is out there and what else hasn't been done that needs to be started.
Well, it's a great organization, wonderful people, putting their heart and soul into something I think is crucial as we look forward to the kids as they grow older, as they get the next generation, 2 or 3 generations, break some of these strongholds, I think really make a difference long into the future.
To live better, we must live united.
So if I was to go to this on my social media stuff and I was to hit 211, what would happen?
A person would answer the phone and they would say, "How can I help you, sir?" And you would say, I need money, I need transportation, I need help for my elderly grandparent who is living in their house by themselves and needs services. And essentially the response then is, where do you live? And then they really target it closely at that point, and then they give you the myriad of services that are out there, the phone numbers and who to call.
Okay.
So it's really a good directional kinds of service and a very clean, efficient way to get it done across the valley.
Wow.
Yeah.
211. Okay.
211.
211. Keep that in mind. Okay, so by now people maybe they've seen this, they've heard it in various media, maybe they've gotten something in the mail, they've seen something in the newspapers, various ways that people should have been in touch with what's going on here in the Cedar Valley United Way wise. But if you missed someone, Would 211 be the way? Or what's the next step?
The best way to contribute to this year's campaign is essentially you can go to our website and do it online like a lot of people do. You may have received something in the mail by now requesting a contribution, or you can simply call us up on the phone on the number, the 319-235-6211. The final piece would probably be through payroll. You can always do that, as the guys have been out this year doing campaigns. And I think I've hit them all.
Okay.
But yeah, so most definitely make the effort.
Folks, you've got, I mentioned it earlier, you've got some rallies you're attending. Lots of activity going on. You've made yourself available for this. Are you having fun?
Absolutely.
It is fun. And the fireworks questions have been fairly limited. But it's been fantastic because so many employees come in from outside this, our area even, to work in our community. So it's been exciting to meet all these different employees and visit all these organizations and see what is occurring in the Cedar Valley. It's quite an education. It is fun.
Jeff, are you happy you're doing what you're doing? I'm talking about with the United Way now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, about a year ago, we started, getting asked or requested if we would be the co-chairs. And, my thought at that time was, oh, I'd love to, but I thought, oh my gosh, that's one more thing on my plate. How am I going to fit that in? But I tell you, it's turned out to be a lot of fun. You meet a lot of great people, and I have learned a significant amount about United Way. I thought I knew something before, but boy, you learn a lot once you fill this role. It's really kind of fun.
I want to mention that when our kids were growing up, we had 4 of them. Our family realized it's not necessarily how many times you write the check, but what kind of example you set in the life you live. Sometimes it's by donating time. Friends and family members know that the Justice family got very much involved in the community in that way. And this is the invitation. If you're still with us from the beginning of the program today, you know that there are solutions out there and you can be a part of it. Once again, the contact information for making a contribution or volunteering your time as well with the United Way. We can flash that on the screen once again for contact information. Right there is your address and your telephone number. And now, folks, you have absolutely no excuse. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on today's program.
Thank you.
The Cedar Valley United Way, providing for you the opportunity to complete good deeds. Thanks for joining us, and the invitation is extended now to you to take the action. And until our next story unfolds, serving the Valley, I'm Roy Justice.
Problems, the ones most people don't have the stomach for, the ones nobody talks about at cocktail parties. We go looking for them. In unforgiving cities, desolate towns, and seemingly docile suburbs. No matter the obstacles, no matter the odds, we surround a community's most critical problems, and we fight. United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community, because change doesn't happen alone. Hope isn't a one-man band, and there's no such thing as self-taught or self-made. We have one life. To live better, we must live united.